The Belize government suffers a major defeat at the Court of Appeal in its ICJ referendum effort. And in sport, Antigua and Barbuda's CONCACAF Under-17 championship bid comes to an end. This is Caribbean in 10 and I'm Dawn Paris. Tuesday, April 9, 2019. We'll be back with the details after the break. It's official. Belizeans will not be voting tomorrow in a referendum on whether the country should take its decades-old border dispute with neighboring Guatemala to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. Prime Minister Dean Barrow made the announcement late yesterday after the Court of Appeal refused to overturn last week's High Court ruling that blocked the vote. The appeals court said it could not entertain the government's appeal until 21 days from the filing of the grounds of appeal, and it refused the application for an urgent hearing of the appeal. Last week, Chief Justice Kenneth Benjamin granted the Opposition People's United Party, the PUP, its request for an injunction to prevent the vote. The PUP has insisted that the government needs to go to Parliament first before going to a referendum. Despite the government's failure to get the Court of Appeal to hear the matter, Prime Minister Barrow announced that there will be a vote by June.
I am in no doubt that we will be having a referendum on going to the ICJ no later than 6 to 8 weeks from the originally scheduled date. Where do we go from here? We must look at whether, in fact, we can get before the CCJ quickly for the hearing of the appeal, which the Court of Appeal could not hear. In other words, we must at least examine the possibility of having the highest court of our country look at the Chief Justice's decision.
Over in Dominica, there's been a warning of possible unrest if the upcoming general election is perceived as not being fair. It has come from President of the Dominica Association of Evangelical Churches, Pastor Randy Rodney, who is a member of a group comprising church, business and civil society leaders lobbying for electoral reform ahead of the next polls that are constitutionally due by March next year. Rodney says the group is still concerned that the business of necessary electoral reform is unfinished. And he says if the general election is held with the public perception that its outcome does not reflect the majority of eligible voters, there is chance that civil unrest and disturbances may ensue. The main opposition United Workers' Party has also been calling for electoral reform, and the ruling Dominica Labour Party government says it has taken several measures to advance the process, including the decision to introduce a national ID card, the provision of funding for necessary equipment to facilitate the administration of the card, the creation of legal instruments on electoral reform, and the tabling of the Registration of Electors Amendment Act 2017 in Parliament. Staying in Dominica, the Douglas Charles Airport is due to reopen later today after investigators from the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, the ECCAA, conduct a probe into yesterday's crash landing of a twin-engine aircraft. The ECCAA has advised that no traffic should be on the runway until they completed their investigations. The twin-engine aircraft owned by the Dominican Republic-based airline Sky High Services arrived from Santo Domingo yesterday morning with 29 passengers and 3 crew members. When it landed at the Douglas Charles Airport, the left landing gear failed and the aircraft veered to the left, and the other landing gear also collapsed. Fire personnel had to put out a small fire on the aircraft, but no one was injured. Stay with us. Your Midday Sport is next.
Man chop. Full cereal chopper life, yeah. Gyal say she want.
Nothing like when pocket full of cash. Many hungry days me used to face, me can't forget. Me cure them soon up, so me a go on more pop.
I don't know what them do to my heart. Can't love nobody serve me sound that. But just a live, just a walk, just like a chew if some spark. My just got down caps.
So it's starting to foam there, as you can see. Now you want to throw this very slowly and gently. So now we're going to add our cake mixture to this here. You don't have to let it cool off, but just add slowly.
In sports now, Antigua and Barbuda failed to qualify for the 2019 CONCACAF Under-17 Championship after they suffered a 2-0 defeat by the Dominican Republic in the deciding match of Group B on Sunday. The Dominican Republic became the 20th and final team to qualify after Franklin Rodriguez scored 2 goals early in the second half. Rodriguez broke the deadlock in the first minute of the second half and extended his side's lead 10 minutes later. Play will resume for the championship round from May 1st to 16th. The Dominican Republic's victory against Antigua and Barbuda moved them to the top spot in Group B with 9 points. The final round of matches in the Windward Islands Senior 2-Day Championship continues today in St. Vincent when the hosts face Grenada at Park Hill and Dominica meet St. Lucia at Cumberland. The 2 matches in the first round ended in draws on Sunday, with SVG taking first innings point over St. Lucia in the face of 100 from the visitors' Junior Henry. Grenada scored a 212-run victory over St. Lucia, while the match between Dominica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines ended in a draw. For Grenada, discarded Windward Islands left-arm spinner Dennis George followed up a second innings half-century with a destructive spell of 4 for 16 from 6 overs, as the St. Lucians were bundled out for 93 in their second innings, chasing 306 for victory. Windward's Volcanoes and West Indies pacer Sherman Lewis took 2 for 20 from 4.4 overs, and Darrell Cyrus 2 for 32 from 7 overs to hasten the decline for St. Lucia. Volcanoes spinners Larry Edwards, who got 4 for 21 from 10.5 overs, and Audie Alexandra, who made 3 for 13 from 6 overs, had undermined the Spice Islanders' batting, bowling them out for 146 in their first innings. Meanwhile, opener Desron Maloney hit a century, and Volcanoes and Windies batsman Sunil Ambris supported with a half-century to earn St. Vincent and the Grenadines a draw with Dominica. Maloney dominated a stand of 81 for the second wicket with Romano Pierre and shared 60 for the third wicket with Ambris before he was bowled by Kevin James. And that's Caribbean in 10. Join us at 6:30 this evening for Caribbean Newsline. Good afternoon.